Hi, welcome everyone. So, in this session, as you know, we are going to talk about what should be the appropriate or the ideal DILR strategy for the last month. Okay. Along with that, we are also going to have a look at what are the must-solve topics at this stage. So, basically, we had floated a form wherein you had sent your questions or shared your questions, and even shared a link on which you had shared your questions regarding the DILR preparation strategy for the last month. So what we are going to do is we'll first go through all your questions, answer all your questions regarding what is an appropriate strategy, considering that only 36 days are remaining to CAT, and DILR obviously is the most feared section. So what should be an appropriate strategy? How many sets should you solve? How much time you should devote? Should you focus more on revision or picking up new topics? Most of these have already been covered in the questions that you've asked me. So I'm going to go through your questions, take your questions one by one, answer all your questions. If there is anything that you feel is still not covered and you would want to discuss that, then obviously you can, send your questions in the live chat. So towards the end, I'll try and take all of those questions as well. And then if I have to add something, we'll go through that. And then we'll also have a look at, what if you have limited time and you can't really do all the PYQs, then what are the questions that you can solve such that you get an idea like what is the difficulty level of DILR. Okay, so I hope everybody who's joined in is very familiar with the DILR section and the pattern and the syllabus and the paper pattern or the DILR section pattern in the last 4 to 5 years. By the way, DILR is the only section where they have not exactly settled on a definite pattern in the post-COVID era. So they have been experimenting a little bit last year. As you know, there were two questions more. Okay, so there were 5 sets. Prior to that, there were 4 sets. So we can expect around 4 to 5 sets, around 20 to 22 questions. Okay, we can't really predict whether they are going to stick with the 22 question format or they are going to go back to the 20 question format. But around 20, 22, considering that it is still a 2 hours paper, same 3 sections, 40 minutes, sectional timing, probably the same number of questions, maybe a tweak of 1 or 2 questions here and there. Maybe, the number of questions in a set might be slightly different. So they might want to go with the 6-6-4-4 format, or 5 sets of 4 questions each, or 2 sets of, let's say, 5 questions each and 3 sets of 4 questions each. But generally, we can say that there would be around 4 to 5 sets and around 20 to 25, 20 to 22 questions. Okay. So I'll just take your questions first, as I said, because we have a lot of questions from many of the participants. So we'll first go through those. Maybe any queries that you have might get covered in that. Okay. In case they do not, then obviously we'll take your questions towards the end, as I said. So let's just get started with the questions that you have shared. So this is your first question. So this is a question from Sumit. And he says, my current strategy is that first 10 minutes I spend on set selection and then 15 minutes each for 2 sets, as my target is 2 complete sets. However, while implementing this, first set itself takes 22 to 25 minutes. And in the last 5 to 8 minutes, I'm not able to solve the second set. My problem is that it takes a lot of time for me to hit the question on the right spot. How can I improve this in the remaining days so that I can secure 10 to 12 questions? Currently, I'm practicing 5 to 6 sets daily with the timer under 12 minutes. Sumit, if you are practicing 5 to 6 sets every day and you are setting a timer of under 12 minutes and you are achieving that target, basically you are being able to solve the sets under 12 minutes, then only 2 possible reasons are there why, or maybe 3 possible reasons why you are facing this problem. One is the difficulty level that you're practicing daily and the difficulty level that you tackle in the mocks or in the past CAT, they don't match. So if you're doing easier sets, you're able to crack them under 12 minutes. But when you come across more difficult sets, those are the ones you are actually supposed to crack in 12 to 15 minutes. But then obviously you take more time because you are spending around 12 minutes on an easy set. So first thing is there should not be a mismatch between the difficulty level. Second thing is that are you picking up the right sets in the mock? Because there will be a set which is pretty difficult to comprehend. The solving part is not going to take a lot of time. But first I need to understand what the set is asking. How do I need to organize my data? What is the order in which I need to pick my clues? And then I have to solve. So there are 1 or 2 sets where it is difficult to understand this. And there are 1 or 2 sets where, things fall into place more easily. So are you selecting the right set? That is the second thing. And third thing is then obviously it could be because of stress. So when you are writing, when you are practicing, probably you are much more composed and relaxed. And when you are taking a mock, maybe you are, more stressed, and hence in anxiety, probably you take more time and you are maybe cross-checking things a lot of times, whether I have utilized the right tools or not. Have I arranged the data correctly or not? Going through the numbers again and again, which is things we don't really do in the daily practice. So I think one of these three reasons could be the cause if this is what is happening. But I can tell you this, that first of all, 10 minutes time for set selection is too much. Because if you take 10 minutes for set selection, then probably you are putting yourself in a position where you are definitely looking at two sets only and not targeting a third set. So maybe, you should be able to select your sets or decide the order in which you're going to attempt in about 5 to 6 minutes. If you're able to decide that in 5 to 6 minutes, that extra 3, 4 minutes make the 7, 8 minutes for the last question around 12 minutes, which is sufficient time to crack a set. Okay, so if you select your sets in about 5, 6 minutes, probably you'll have a time to, have a crack or have a go at three sets. So you're taking a lot of time, and then 22 to 25 minutes is too much time for a set of more or less most of the difficulty level, I would say. Okay, so easy, moderate to difficult, one should be able to crack up to within 15 minutes. So you are taking a lot of time. So as I said, that there seems to be some mismatch here, because if I'm practicing daily and I'm doing it like, under 12 minutes every day, then why would I not be able to do it specifically in the mocks or in the PYQs? Okay, so just see what exactly is the problem. In case you are picking up the wrong sets, we are going to discuss in this session how to pick the right set. So pick the right set. Right set is going to take lesser time compared to the wrong set. Okay, so moving on. Guys, I can see some of you have shared your questions on the live chat. My suggestion is that let's quickly run through the questions that we already have. And in case your question is still unanswered, then that is when I'll pick up your questions from the live chat. So let's look at the next question. So it says, what is the ideal approach to DILR sectional test in the final month? See, I mean, sectional test is not at the top of the priority order. This is one thing I can tell you, because depending on how much time you have for devoting to a section, if you have limited time, probably you are looking at the mocks, you are looking at the previous year questions, and you're looking at revision. These are the three most important activities. Beyond that, if you have extra time, or if you are struggling specifically in DILR and hence you have the time to take up the DILR sectional test, then in that case, see, the ideal approach to a DLR sectional test, in fact, in a sectional test, you are more relaxed or more composed, because in an actual test, you are attempting DLR after a tough BRC section and before a tough QA section. So, that fatigue is also there, that stress is also there. When you're only attempting a sectional test, probably you're doing it with a fresh mind. So the number of attempts can be a little bit more, whatever strategy you have decided, you should be able to implement it better during a sectional test compared to the actual full length test. Okay. The purpose of sectional test is just to identify or maybe do additional practice in a particular section. So if I have written in a full length test, I'm still writing 1 or 2 every week. Beyond that, I want more practice in a particular section. Then that is when I'm going to pick up the sectional test at this point of time. Okay, so if you're using the sectional test, basically the approach is the same. Only thing is that, if we talk about the IMS sectional tests, they are in ascending order of difficulty. So the first few sectional tests would be easier, and hence you should be aiming for a higher score there. So basically just based on the difficulty level of the set as such, and not about, a particular topic or anything, you should be targeting a certain score and try to streamline the problems that you have found in your DILR section in the mocks. So in the mocks, as I said, that because three back-to-back sections, probably we are not able to find the problems in that depth for a particular section. But when I take sectional test, I'm writing only that section, then probably, those problems are more glaring. So one can easily understand, yeah, these are the problems I'm having in DILR sections. But other than that, as I told you, that right now in the priority order, they are going to sit below the PYQs and the mocks and the revision. Okay. So let's move on to the next question here. How do I practice DILR effectively while commuting? See, Ananya, I mean, if you have to practice while commuting, firstly, my suggestion would be go for the other sections, which are relatively easier to practice. Okay. So like VARC, if you are doing reading, you are doing some VA exercises, you are going through word list, you are even solving RC passages where your focus is much more on reading and retaining, even those things you can do during the commute. But anything which needs writing probably is not the best thing to do during a commute. So, beyond the VARC, even QA going through the formulae and all is a thing one can easily do during the commute. DILR, it's slightly more difficult because everything we do is in writing only. But if you have to do DILR, then there are two things that you can do. One is that the sets that you've already solved and you know exactly what you did, you can go through their solutions. You can watch the video solutions or the text solution. You can go through the text solution and understand how your approach was different. You can go through the analytics if they are available, because those things don't really need me to sit and note down probably. And then another thing that you can do is a little bit of maybe some puzzle solving. So if you are still into, ideally you should be solving one or two puzzles every day. So probably those are the things which don't really need as much writing. So like if you're doing a Sudoku or a Kakuro, those kind of things, probably they don't need as much writing. So these are the two or three things that you can do. Yeah, one more thing you can do, if there are strategy videos, you are struggling with the strategy, time management, what are the topics I should be focusing on, these kind of things, like a session we are doing right now. These are the kind of sessions that you can watch during the commute. But sitting and solving a day, a cat level difficulty set or a mock set during commute may be difficult. You may end up taking more time and then you may not be able to even judge your potential properly. So I would not really suggest that during the commute. Okay, so let's move on to the next question here. So some topics are strong, such as Venn diagrams. However, I'm unable to solve general sets. I'm able to solve 80% of one set only in SimCaps. Trying out different sets is turning into rote learning and is not of much help. What should be my strategy? See, first of all, if I'm not being able to solve general sets, then we can't really call that topic is strong. We are strong in a topic only if we are able to do at least the A and B level difficulty level sets. We may still not be able to do a C difficulty level set. That is perfectly all right. Anyhow, we don't have to do them. But A and B difficulty level, we should be able to answer. If we are not being able to answer, then we are not probably as strong in that topic. We need more practice. Now, being able to solve 80% of one set only in SimCat, it could be due to wrong set selection. Otherwise, you are taking a little bit more time than you should be taking in solving a set. As I said that for an average student, I think 15 minutes for a set is more than enough. Somebody who's, let's say, just below average also, around 20 minutes for a set should be more than enough. So basically, you have to target around two sets. If you're targeting two sets, as an average student, if I'm average in DILR, I have to target two sets. I'm better, I'm targeting more than two. So if I'm looking at two sets also, then I can't really afford to put more than 20 minutes. So first of all, putting all 40 minutes in one set, that's not a good idea. That's a bad strategy. And then not being able to solve that also 80%, probably what you need to do is, firstly, you need to work on your fundamentals, because when you say strong, should be able to solve the general sets, as you have said. Secondly, you need to do a thorough analysis of your approach in different sets and the mentor's approach in the same set. And you need to try and understand how you have been approaching the set differently from the mentor. If required, make use of revise with AI feature, use AI for practice. But not being able to solve even one set, see, the cutoff is generally going to be around 1.5 sets. Sometimes in a more difficult paper, one set. In a slightly easier paper, two sets. So not being able to do one set also, then we will find it difficult to clear the cutoff in that case. Now coming to the second part of your question, trying out different sets is turning into rote learning. It's exactly based on how we do it. I mean, if you are just, learning up the whole solution, then obviously it is rote learning only and it wouldn't help. Then you will be only able to crack an exactly identical set, which is extremely unlikely to happen. Okay, so basically you have to understand, not learn. You don't really have to learn the steps that, okay, after this, to do this, after this, do. So, okay, we are interested in what to do. We need to do that if we have not been able to solve. But as important as the what is the why over here. Why are we picking up this clue after this clue? Why are we making a Venn diagram in this set? Okay. So these are the kind of things which are more important. So if you just learn the solutions, obviously it wouldn't be of help. But the first part of that statement, trying out different sets, that's an absolute must. Unless and until I have tried sets of different types, I wouldn't even know. Like, this is a bubble graph, how to solve it. What do we do in an area chart question? What do we do in a radar chart question? So unless and until I have tried different sets, I wouldn't really be able to crack a cat set or a even more difficult mock set. So that is very, very essential. At the same time, you don't have to learn the solutions. You have to understand the solution. Don't understand a step. Don't just learn it by heart. Ask your colleagues, ask your batchmates, ask your mentor, why they have done that. Okay. So yeah, these are the things that should definitely help you, Pisha. But as I said earlier, that first and foremost, you work on the fundamentals, because if fundamentals are clear, we have done enough practice and we are strong in some of the important topics, should be able to definitely crack more than one set. Okay. So moving on to the next one. I'm facing a sort of DILR slump, like I used to do sets faster now, but now I'm slow even in easy questions. What to do? These guys, see, I mean, a slump, by what degree? That is the important thing here, because little bit fluctuation scores is pretty okay. It is going to happen throughout the prep journey. But, if you have noticed a considerable fall, my suggestion would be sometimes we overdo a section or overdo preparation in general. And it is not a bad idea to step back and relax for 1 or 2 days. So if you have done too much of DILR, you may not be able to process information as quickly. Maybe for 1 or 2 days, 3 days, you can take a break from DILR. That's not a bad idea. That is one thing. If you haven't really overdone sets, then there's one more thing here, that easy or difficult, this is relative. So basically, when we see a solution and we feel that it is easy, but the thing is that did we understand the approach to it and still we were not able to solve it? If we understood the approach, then only that set was easy for me. If I didn't understand there's one starting point. I don't know how to start. The mentors has started and after it everything falls into place. Then it is not an easy set for me. I need to know how the set should have been started. Okay, so if you are calling easy questions which you actually feel they are easy, and you haven't really overdone DILR, as I said, then in that case, maybe just look at your set selection. How much time you're spending on set selection? What is the criteria of set selection? And if at all you have taken time, how does your time compare with an average test taker's time and a topper's time? And if at all you have taken more time, why have you taken more time? There has to be some confusion, right? So there, I must be confused at certain step where I deliberate for 2 minutes or 3 minutes what to do. And those 2, 3 minutes, if I have taken twice in a question, then I end up taking 5 minutes more than I should have taken. Whereas if I have a picture map in my mind that what I need to do next, then I don't really waste any time and I'm able to do the set faster. So my suggestion would be that firstly, make sure that you haven't really overdone the section. If you have done that, just take a break for 2, 3 days and then just see whether your set selection is fine or not. Are there steps where you get stuck? And that is the reason you are taking more time. Are you taking a lot of time in calculations? Are you becoming, let's say you're checking your calculations at every step. So basically, there are some reasons why we are taking more time. Try to find out those reasons, and then probably you have to try and find the solution. Okay. So now moving on to the next question. What is the best way to track my progress and improvement in DILR now? Same parameters, which is for any other section. Basically, one is the scores. If earlier I was solving one set generally in a mock, and now I'm solving two sets in any random mock, then I have definitely improved. Second is my time comparison within average test takers time comparison and toppers time comparison. If there was a wide gap, I was taking much more time than a topper and more time than even an average test taker, and now I'm at par or I'm doing better than those, then I have definitely improved. Then my judgment, which is a huge factor in the DILR section, how many C level difficulty level sets I was, falling in the trap and picking up those sets, how many A's and B's I was missing out, and now what is my accuracy in the set selection. And then the last criteria, marks per minute. So like whatever time I devoted to actually solving the set, how many marks I was picking up in that, and now how many marks I am picking up and how much is my accuracy. Okay, so these are the 4 or 5 parameters, and probably at this stage of the preparation, you should have a tick in most of them, if not all of them, because we don't have too much time now. So everywhere, if you can see an improvement compared to a couple of months back, what you were doing, then you are doing good. Okay, Tanvi. Fine. So let's look at the next question. How do I manage time between DILR, QA, and VARC in the final month? How do I balance DILR preparation with work or college commitment? Okay, I presume that both of you are in Lavia is definitely in the final month, so CAT 25. I presume Neha, you are also CAT 25 student. So how do I balance DILR preparation or all the 3 sections? How do I split? It depends on 2 or 3 factors actually. So one thing is that how much time do I have? Am I only preparing for CAT? Am I a working professional? Am I a student in the final year and I'm able to devote limited amount of time to CAT preparation? That is one factor. Secondly, how am I performing in the different sections? So I may be extremely good in VARC and hence I may not need as much practice in that. I may be above average in quant, but I may be struggling to clear the cutoff in DILR, in which case obviously I won't be able to distribute my time proportionally. I would need to devote more time to DILR. So based on these 2 factors, the answer is going to change. I'll just give you a general answer here because I don't have the answer to these 2 questions. So presuming that you are devoting a sufficient amount of time, let's say 9 hours or more, to CAT preparation at this stage of preparation, probably 2 hours of DILR should be sufficient. And when I say 2 hours, 2.5 hours in 9 hours, accordingly you can change the number. So if you are devoting 12 hours, maybe you can even go for 3 hours. If you have just about 5-6 hours, probably an hour or an hour and a half is what you need to devote. And then in this time, you include all the questions that you're solving. So it's not like I'm asking you to write a sectional test separately and a mock separately and then devote additional 2 hours to DILR, nothing like that. If you are writing a full length mock and then beyond that you are doing, let's say, 6 hours of practice more, then probably you have already devoted around 40 minutes to DILR during the mock. And then another hour and a half out of the remaining 6 hours should be more than enough. So how do I balance DILR preparation with work or college commitment? I mean, this is something you have to do because if you are a working professional, then obviously you don't get as much time. You might find only 4-5 hours. If you have been on track, you have been at par with the batch, then probably you have finished the syllabus and this is the revision stage. If you are doing 1.5 hours, my first suggestion would be go for PYQs and the proctored SimCats or whichever mocks you're writing, go for the mocks. And then beyond that, the revision. So try to do at least 5 sets, even if you are a working professional. If you are a college student, I think unless and until you have exams right now, CAT has to be the top priority because very little time remains to CAT now. So obviously, if you have some college assignment, something that can be, I would not say deferred or something, but you don't have to put in as much time right now. You can even do it a little later. Then probably this is the time to focus more on CAT and not so much on the other things right now. It's just a matter of 1 month. Yes, if you have your exams, then you can't help it. You have to give time to college studies, a lot of time, in fact. But if you don't have your exams or something like that, then please give more preference to CAT just now and devote maximum time to CAT preparation. Okay, fine. Looking at the next question here. What should be my daily DILR target in the last month before CAT? How many DILR sets should I attempt per day to aim for 95 plus percentile? What is a realistic weekly plan for DILR in the final month? Okay. So first of all, what should be the daily DILR target, number of sets and minutes? Unless and until you are very tight pressed for time and you have some time on your hand, it should not be less than 1.5 hours now for everybody, and it should not be less than around 5 to 6 sets. Minimum 5 sets one should be looking at, because if we are looking at 5 sets, then we are looking at only 180 sets now. And the thing is that all those 5 sets will not be new sets, because as I told you earlier, also revision is a very big one of the most important tasks you have to do right now. So if you're doing 5 sets, probably 3 are new sets, 2 are revision, or 2 are new sets, 3 are revision, which means by CAT now you're just looking at another 75 to 100 sets maybe. So that's the bare minimum that you have to do. Of course, if you have more time, you can do more. But the bare minimum is 1.5 hours and around 5 sets, not less than that for sure. If you have more time and CAT preparation is the only thing that you are doing, please try to look at least 8 sets every day. And more than 2 hours, around 2.5 hours, or maybe even 3 hours, but definitely not less than 2 hours. How many DILR sets should I attempt per day to aim for 95 plus percentile? If it was, percentile was related to the number of sets, people would have solved 20 sets in a day and got 100 percentile. So there is no direct correlation between how many sets I attempt and then I end up with this much percentile. The important thing is, firstly, my strong areas should be strong enough. My weak areas should not be weak enough. I should be able to at least do the A's and B's from there. Third thing is that, am I using the relevant practice resources? So basically what I should be doing at this point of time, am I doing those kind of sets only, or I'm just using random resources on YouTube and other channels? and probably, not really practicing the relevant stuff. Fourth thing is how am I managing my time? If I'm, when I practice at home, I'm just taking DILR separately, not really crunch between, let's say, VARC and Quant, and giving myself unlimited time to solve when I'm happy that I'm able to crack the sets. Then in the mocks, I'm not really going to get those luxuries. So then probably I'm not going to perform as well. So the other factors are more important over here, rather than how many sets are you attempting per day. But as I said earlier, that because we are not left with much time, yeah, minimum 5 to 6 sets you should be attempting, whatever is the percentile you are aiming for. It is not related to the percentile. 5 to 6 sets, definitely. What is the realistic weekly plan? If you follow the daily plan, other than the daily plan, basically what you need to do in once in a week is basically one mock and one previous year paper. Or if you haven't written too many of previous year papers, then maybe two previous year papers. Okay, so this is the only additional thing. Otherwise, you just have to follow your daily plan. If you're just doing daily 2 hours, you've already devoted 14 hours. And then if you're writing one mock and you're writing one PYQ, that's almost around 20 hours in a week. So that's sufficient time. Okay, so there's nothing more additional that you need to do. Set mix, it already gets covered in the mock. Sectionals, as I told you in one of the answers earlier, that it is not the top priority right now. It is definitely going to rank below PYQs, mocks, and revision. Okay. Uh, Moving on to the next one. Is it advisable to start new DILR types now, or should I focus on consolidation and revision? A mix of both, Manav. So basically, if you're asking me that you haven't really picked up a topic, and should you pick up that topic now and focus on that topic and start from scratch, build the basics, then do some advanced level practice? The answer can be yes to that as well. It depends on the topic. If it is something like, let's say, arrangements I haven't done till now, or Venn diagrams I haven't done till now, then probably I need to do those. I can't really ignore that part of my preparation. But if it is something like, let's say, cubes I have not done till now, selections I have not done till now, you may or may not do. I'm saying may or may not do because it doesn't take too much time to cover the basics of any topic. So if I haven't really done selections, if I do 8 to 10 sets, I know exactly what needs to be done in selections. Yes, there are more variations I can cover. But if I have covered 8 to 10 sets also, I know a few basics. I know what is the question type in selections, what are we trying to do, what are the 2 or 3 different approaches. So that much, if you have to do, even a new topic can be picked up right now. It's not an issue. If you want to go in more depth, it depends on the importance of the topic. It is one of the most important topics. You have to do that. We have enough time. We can still pick up 1 or 2 new topics, doesn't matter. But if it is not one of the most important topics, then probably don't need to explore it in as much depth. At the same time, whether you have to do some additional topics or you have already covered the basic syllabus, consolidation and revision is an absolute must. As I've said earlier also, that half of the time, whatever I'm devoting to a section, especially in DILR and QA2 sections, that can be revised. VARC, I'm not sure if there is as much one can revise, but the other 2 sections can be revised. So in those 2 sections, yes, almost 40% of the time has to go towards revision. So that is more important. But if there are new, and anyhow, when we are doing PYQs, if I have not attempted them, I'm writing new mocks, I am solving new sets simultaneously. Okay. So let's look at the next question here. At this stage, should I prioritize accuracy or speed? As long as the number of attempts is above a certain threshold, accuracy in all the 3 sections over speed. Definitely accuracy over speed. Yes, if my number of attempts is very less, like if I'm attempting 1 set or less than 1 set, then I need to focus on speed simultaneously. But as long as I am attempting around 8 to 10 questions or more than that, accuracy is of prime importance. 8 questions if you answer correctly, leaving aside CAT 24 where DILR was easier. If I look at any other DILR other than CAT 24, 8 questions if you answer correctly and you don't make any mistakes, you are generally certainly crossing 90 percentile and around 95 percentile. So accuracy is more important over here. You attempt 16 questions and you get 6 of them wrong, or you attempt 8 questions and you get all of them right, you end up at the same score. Okay, but if you put that extra pressure on yourself that I have to attempt 16 questions, probably you might not get even 10 correct over there. So my suggestion would be that definitely accuracy, if the number of attempts is around 10 or more than that. If you're able to attempt two sets, focus on getting those two right, first of all. And then, yes, if you are consistently hitting accuracy above 85% or 90%, then you can definitely try to speed up a little bit and try to target a third set. Okay, so since most of us are not able to do all the sets, there is always a scope for improvement in terms of speed. If I am doing two sets, I would try and target 2.5 sets. If I'm doing 2.5, I'll try and target 3 sets. If I'm doing three, then I'll try and target 3.5. So yes, we are constantly trying to improve on the speed, but speed not at the cost of accuracy. As long as you can maintain your accuracy, yes, why not increase your speed then? Okay, Siddharth. Fine, let's look at the next one here. So how can I increase my accuracy in DILR sets in the final month? And what is the best way to analyze my DILR mistakes from mocks in the last month? So these two questions are in a way related. If you analyze your mistakes correctly, you'll be able to increase your accuracy. So how do you analyze your mistakes? See, I mean, if we are making mistakes or if we don't have very high accuracy, there has to be some reason behind that. And the common reasons are that I chose the wrong set. Okay, I spent too much time on a set. Um, I did not start from the right clues. I ended up selecting the wrong clues, which led me to a lot of possibilities. I misunderstood certain conditions. I copied the data incorrectly. I made a calculation mistake. Usually, these are the culprits, right? So you need to sit and analyze wherever you have gone wrong. You need to sit and analyze those solutions, and you need to understand that, okay, what is the mistakes I'm making? Am I making same mistake, or are there certain mistakes I'm making more frequently? Like, if we all know that if we are not reading the set properly, what is the solution to that? I need to be more composed when I'm solving the DLR section and not really be stressed about how many sets more are remaining or something like that. Okay. Second thing is, if I'm making a lot of calculation mistakes, make use of the on-screen calculator. So first and foremost, you need to understand what are the kind of mistakes that you're making. And then also, are there specific question types where you're making mistakes? So I may have a liking for Venn diagrams, but I may be solving 60% of the Venn diagrams incorrectly. Then probably I need to spend some 3-4 days on Venn diagram practicing those, or I need to skip Venn diagrams unless and until I'm sure that this is the way to solve that. So first and foremost, you need to analyze your mistakes, understand the reason why accuracy is not beyond a certain level. And once you are able to understand that, as I said, different problems would have different solution. So if it is a speed issue, if it is not reading the set correctly, not interpreting the conditions correctly, probably taking notes from those sets is a good idea, that this is the phrase that they had used. This is how I interpreted. This is what it actually means, right? So those kind of rectification you can do once you understand that what are the common mistakes that you are making. Okay. Uh, Moving on. How do I revise DILR topics efficiently in the last few weeks? How do I ensure I'm not forgetting previously learned DILR concepts while revising? So Rajat, first I'll answer your question that if I'm revising, then obviously I am revising the previously learned concepts. So I don't really see that, if you are frequently revising, and now because not much time is left, that frequency could be even revising once a week. So if you are revising frequently, then there's no way you are going to forget the concepts. Also, one thing to ensure over here is to make sure that you're not forgetting the concepts and all, is taking notes. Many of us, once we understand the solution, we don't really note down anything. And then when we come across a similar set again another time, we still again struggle with that. So once I have got stuck in something and I have picked up concepts, as you said, that I've learned DLR concepts, note down those concepts. And once in a while, other than revisiting the good sets again, go through those concepts once again. Okay, so like, for example, I'll just tell you what I'm talking about here. Let's say I have done 1 or 2 sets of radar chart. I've done a bubble graph set. I've done an area graph set. I've done couple of sets of maxima minima. I've done sets of number crunching. I would have picked up some way of solving that in a radar chart. I mean, this is how I read a radar chart. In a bubble graph, this is what the area of the bubble denotes. This is what is generally on the x-axis, y-axis. In a number crunching set, these are the numbers which we look for and from where we start solving. So basically those kind of things, if I've noted down and I'm revising them once in a week, like for example, I'll just talk about a quant question here, which is also a DILR question. If I'm just trying to find a number of routes, from point A to point B, then there is one way of, putting the number of routes across the grid and then adding up the values. So if I have noted down those kind of concepts and I revise them once in a while, I know what is the approach to a particular kind of set. While every set in DILR seems to be different, they are not different. So when I was picking up the sets for you for today's, the list that we are going to have a look at towards the end, I found a lot of sets very similar. Okay. So basically grid of some type. Now they might put it in a different context. So sometimes they may say that there are ATMs distributed over here. Sometimes they might say that there are petrol pumps distributed over here. Sometimes they might say that there's a police patrolling party. Sometimes they may say that they cannot cross once. Sometimes they may say that they are only going to move around the lake. But basically, at the end, it's just a grid problem. So if I know how to solve a grid problem, they are all similar problems for me. So it is very, very important to take notes. If you're not taking notes and you're not revising frequently, then probably, you struggle a little bit more. How do I revise efficiently? There are two things that you do. As I said, if you have been taking notes, revise the notes. Most of the students, especially most of the good students, do not like revisiting sets because their funda is pretty simple that we have already done this set so many once. So why do I do this set again? Why not look for a new set? Okay. I can tell you one thing, and this is not just my experience. I think most of the mentors would agree. Despite having taken a set many times in different batches, sometimes we get stuck. So you don't really learn DILR. In DILR, there's nothing that you can learn. Okay, so the thing is that it is always a good idea. If I did a set once and it took me 20 minutes, can I do it in 12 minutes now? Do I have a visual map? Do I know what is to be done in this side? I'm not talking about remembering the answers. Well, I could remember all the 5 answers. But the thing is, do I remember the approach also? Do I remember the logic? Do I know why am I representing it on a timeline and not making a diagram over here? So the thing is that if you know the concepts and if you don't, revisiting the same sets again is not a bad idea. We always ask you, even if you're a repeater, you are asked to go to the PYQs again. So it's not a bad idea. That is one thing. Secondly, if you don't want to go through the sets again, make use of AI, as I said. Okay, so if you're an IMS student, you know that we have this feature called Revise with AI. So make use of AI. It is going to generate a similar set, not an exactly same set. Revise with that, but definitely revise. If you're not revising, then probably you're just adding new and new sets and forgetting the old ones. Then this problem will always be there. So this is my suggestion. Now let's look at the next one. So how do I select the right DILR sets quickly during the exam? How to identify whether a unique set is easy or hard, as I usually avoid it, but sometimes it ends up being easy. If you are an IMS student, we had covered one, first mile to CAT and then last mile to CAT. We had talked extensively about the set selection process. Otherwise, also, see, there are a few things you have to see. First thing that you have to see is your familiarity with the set. So if suppose I haven't really done a particular type of graph, I have never really seen in my life, then I would be able to crack that. Chances are not very high. So how familiar are you? You have done a lot of Venn diagram questions, then probably being able to crack a Venn diagram, it's more likely. If you have just done 5 to 10 selection questions, you may not be able to crack the set. Okay, so how familiar you are, how comfortable you are in that topic, that is one thing. Secondly, what kind of data is given, what kind of conditions or constraints are given. So if the constraints are leading to multiple possibilities, it is going to be a time-taking set. Okay, and if the constraints are leading to 1 or 2 or 3 possibilities, probably we can get the answer faster. Another thing that one should always look at is the questions. Are the questions throwing more data at you? So they have given some common data and then every question they're adding more data. Then that kind of set is going to take too much time. But if the questions are, let's say most of them are closed questions, they have a unique answer, they're MCQs, then probably we are going to take less time. Even one more thing that one can have a look at is how much calculation intensive the set is. Because while we do have an on-screen calculator, if we have to do 4, 5, 6, maybe up to 10 calculations in a set, probably we can use the calculator. But if we have to do 30 calculations in a set, calculator is not going to help us much. So unless and until most of it we can manage on our own, probably getting into that set is not a great decision. Okay, so look at the set conditions. First and foremost, look at the topic, whether you are comfortable in that topic or not. look at the set conditions, look at the data, look at the questions, look at the options. If the options are very close, or some intelligent guessing can lead me to the closest answer. If every question has something like cannot be determined, none of these, then those sets would be slightly trickier. So these are the parameters that one looks at when deciding the set, and all of it takes just about 1 minute or 1.5 minutes. It doesn't take too much time. In 1.5 minutes, you can quickly, what we ask you to do here is we ask you to rate the set, right? So in 1.5 minutes, you can quickly rate the set. That this is what I would rate this set on a scale of 10. And even if you don't rate it, just judge it on these parameters. Okay. Now let's move on to the next question here. How do I handle tough DILR sets during the exam? When to skip versus persist? And then I'm taking the second part of the question here first. What is the maximum amount of time that can be spent on choosing the set as well as solving a set? Also, if we've started solving a set and realized it's going to take too much time, is it wise to jump to next set even though we are halfway there? Set selection should not take more than 5 to 6 minutes. Within 5 to 6 minutes, you'll be able to decide the order of these are my first two sets. As I said, two sets is the bare minimum we are targeting. So these are my first two sets. And this is the set I'm most likely not doing, because unless and until I'm in a position where I can answer everything, this is my last set. Okay. So these are the two important calls to take. That this is my last set and these are the first two sets. Now in the first two sets, even if you mix your order a little bit, doesn't really matter that much, because two is what we are definitely targeting. Okay. So 5 to 6 minutes should be sufficient time deciding the order of the set. How much time should be spent on solving a set? There is no answer to this question, because different sets would have different amount of time that they need. An easy set probably 5 to 6 minutes, an easy to moderate set around 8 to 9 minutes, moderate set around 10 minutes or 11 minutes, moderate to difficult around 13 to 14 minutes. Difficult set solving might take even 10 minutes only, but figuring out what to do might take half an hour or more than that. So basically in CAT, most of the sets would be in the easy to moderate, moderate and moderate to difficult category. Those should take around 7-8 minutes to something around 12-13 minutes. Okay. Then after how much time should I escape the set? Or if I have solved halfway, should I move to the next set or keep sitting on the same set? Definitely, if you are stuck, then there is no point sitting on the same set. So I would say that the maximum I'm saying that you can spend on a set is 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, we will not be able to crack most of the sets, but in 5 minutes, we should have a clear idea what is to be done in the next 5 minutes. If we don't have that idea after 5 minutes, it is high time. You need to leave the set and move on. Okay, so basically, if you make sure that you are leaving a set in 5 minutes or so, you take around 6 minutes selecting the set. Even if you make two wrong choices, let's say two bad starts, you leave them in 5 minutes, you still have 24 minutes. You can still have a crack at two sets. So 5 minutes is the maximum. The earlier you leave, the better it is. But maximum is 5 minutes. Also, one more thing is very important here, and that is making sure that you are doing it when you're solving, you're doing it in a very neat manner. Because what that does is that if I have, let's say, 4 or 5 minutes at the end, probably not sufficient time to look at another set, I can come back to the set that I have already attempted and see if there was something that I was missing out on, and probably I might be able to finish that set. Now, for that to happen, the rough work that you do, that should be very neat and clean, should be able to easily find that set in the solution. So it should not be a complete mess where you have written one statement here, one statement somewhere else, and you are unable to relate the statements. Everything should be neatly done at a separate place, so that if I have to come back to that set, I can easily do that. But otherwise, maximum time is 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, if you're not able to understand what this set is asking, what is to be done in the next 5 minutes, whatever you have solved till then, just have a look at the questions. Based on what you've solved, you may be able to answer one or two questions, answer those and move on. Don't keep sitting on a set for more than 5 minutes. Okay, now let's look at the next question here. What are the best resources or books for daily DILR practice at CAT level now? PYQs, mocks, curated sets. Curated sets is nothing but PYQs and mocks only. Otherwise, do you think that they create their own sets? Mostly no. So curated sets is nothing but a collection of PYQs and mocks. PYQs and mocks, definitely the best practice that you can do, and in that order. So PYQs is the most important thing that you can practice, followed by your notes. Everything else is secondary. After this, if you do something, do your basic material. You haven't done class exercises, practice exercises, benchmarking tests, something of that sort. Do that later on. Okay. But make sure that now you are only picking up CAT relevant topics and from reliable sources. Don't pick up random XYZ sources on YouTube or any other website or anything. Okay. So PYQs is undoubtedly the single most important practice that you can do. Depending on how much of it you have already solved. If you have already done most of the PYQs, as I said earlier, that revision is very important here. So you would be revising some of those sets again. You would be revising some of the mock sets again. You'll be revising basic material again. Beyond that, you're looking for new material, on you can find there are reliable sources like even IMS channel. You see, we have done some DILR marathons and master classes, and I'm sure the others are also doing such stuff. So there are reliable sources which you can use for practice if you need additional practice. But this is only for people who have already done most of the PYQs. If you have not done that, that is the most important resource for practice. So first make use of that before you jump on to any other source. Okay. Uh, Fine. Now let's move on to the next question. What are the most important DILR set types to focus on now? The most important DILR topics, if I talk about DI first, graphs undoubtedly. So nothing comes close to graphs in DI. And then quant-based DI. Okay. Number crunching problems, where you just have to put some numbers or break up, let's say, a number as a sum of numbers, look for integral solutions, those kind of questions. Okay, games and tournaments and everything else would rate below these topics. So these are the three most important topics in DI. LR, the single most important topic is arrangements. And Venn diagram is obviously a DILR topic, Venn diagrams. So if you're asking me for the 5 question types that you should definitely practice, these are the 5. Should be definitely very good at these 5. Most in all likelihood, you are going to get at least 2 sets from here. Okay, so yeah, if you haven't really covered the syllabus or much of the syllabus just now, first focus on these topics before you move on to the other question types. Okay, fine. Now let's look at next question here. How do I overcome fear and nervousness towards DILR in the last month? Since you have written a lot of mocks, or hopefully you would have written a lot of mocks by now, this problem should not be there because we have already faced a lot of tough TLR sections by now. In case you haven't, see, nothing gives you more confidence than a good score. So if you start writing some PYQs or the previous year papers, in fact, and you get a good score in DILR in those, that's going to give you a lot of confidence. If when you walk out onto the pitch to, let's say, bat, whether you are a Sachin Tendulkar or a Virat Kohli, you are very nervous. When you get your first run, you gain some confidence. And as soon as one ball hits the sweet spot of the bat, you are a different player altogether. So the thing is that that is true, basically in everything. So the fear and the nervousness is only unless and until I, first of all, just jump into that and start doing that activity. And once I start doing that activity and I get some good scores, I think it's going to give me a lot of confidence and also probably a liking for the section. If I start scoring well, I want even more marks over there. Right. So Aishwarya, in case you haven't really written a lot of mocks or PYQs you haven't solved, my suggestion is start doing that. The nervousness is going to take care of itself. Little bit of nervousness is always good to have. Lot of it is not good. Okay. Coming to the next question. What last minute tips and strategies can help maximize my DIL score on CAT day? Okay, so first thing is share trust your preparation, because on the last day, as you asked on CAT day, on the last day, there's nothing that you can do much. So whatever you have done, trust your preparation, trust your luck, hope that what are your strong topics, going to get something from there. Don't take the stress of VARC into DILR or the anxiety of quant into DILR. When you are solving DILR, focus on DILR only. Play the ball, not the bowler, which means look at the set and then decide. I have, I meet a lot of students tell me that I first do LR, I first do DI, I first do arrangements. This is not a good strategy in a paper like CAT, which is very unpredictable. So from the easiest topic, you may have the most difficult set. And from a very difficult topic, you may have a slightly easier set. So you look at the set. We discussed just now what are the criteria you can use for deciding the order of the sets. Look at the set. As I said that give some time to the set. If you're not able to crack, don't panic. As long as you are leaving it in 4 or 5 minutes, it is fine. So one thing which is very, very important is do not panic in the DILR section. If it is tough, you may be, used to scoring pretty high in DLR in the mocks. But on the CAT day, you may not be getting a set. It is perfectly all right. It may be a very difficult section, and everybody might have low scores there, right? So do not panic. You have selected a set. It could be a wrong start. No problem. Leave it. Move on. There could be two false starts. Still no problem. There's still two sets to go. So please do not panic. And what else you can do? As I said, do your rough work neatly so that if you have to come back, you can come back to a particular set. Um, and that's it. I mean, if you do these things, just manage your time well. You do not panic and you just trust your preparation. I think you are going to get a good score. Okay, while the DLR section is, let's say, relatively more difficult than the other two sections, there are easy sets in that as well. Okay, so there may not be any easy set in DILR, like there can be, or there are a few easy questions in quant. There may be nothing called easy in DILR, but there would be a set that is between easy to moderate. There would be a set that is moderate. There would be a set that is moderate to difficult, and there would be a set that is difficult. So if I pick easy to moderate and I prepared well, then I'm sure that, any student who's prepared well, he can crack at least those two sets. And once you have done two sets correctly, you are definitely past 90 percentile. Okay. Fine, let's look at the next question here. Okay, this is the all the questions that I had from the forms that you had submitted. So now I'll just take your questions from here in case some of them are unanswered. Let me know. I'll take your questions. So should we practice type C sets from P-wise? Going through the solution once is not a bad idea, Nancy, because um, I need to understand why is this a type C set so that if I come across one, I'm able to skip it. So while we don't really have to spend a lot of time trying to understand that and master that, because that is the probably one set that we're not going to do. But going through the solution once and understanding that what is it that makes this a C level difficulty level set, that is important because that is the only way I'll be able to realize that this set is a C and I should not be doing it, right? Then daily target strategy, I have already answered. So if there is something that we have not covered, please share that. We'll discuss that. Can you predict 5 sets? No, we can't really predict anything because there has been a CAT slot where there was no graphs also, which is almost like a certainty. So nobody can predict what you're going to get. Are we only going to discuss strategy? Yes. Okay. I think I've mostly covered everything. In case somebody has a question that we have not covered in this discussion, please just share it here and we'll discuss that. Sometimes if one is not able to attempt all the questions in a set, is it okay? Yeah, it not only is that okay, Ricky, but it's very important because the difference between a two set and a 2.5 set is that half set only. So if I have answered two sets and I don't really have enough time to have a crack at the third set, I'll just look at the questions of the remaining set and there may be one or two setters over there. which can be easily answered without processing the entire information. Now, those 6 marks can mean a difference of about 2 percentile. So definitely it's not never, mandatory that if you have got into a set, you have to do the whole set or you can't pick up single questions from a set. The other side of this is that if I'm solving a set and I will spend 5, 6, 7 minutes on that or 7 minutes on that, and I'm able to crack 3 questions from that, and the remaining 2 questions I'm not being able to crack. Don't keep sitting on the same set and trying to answer those 2 questions because you already answered 3 from there. You move on to the next set. In the same time, you may be able to answer 2 questions correctly from the next set. So you have to make the best possible productive use of your time. Don't keep sitting on the same set if you're not getting the answers. Is it compulsory to solve 500 sets to get 99 percentile? Not compulsory. Nobody has said that if you have solved less than 500, then you can't get a certain score. If you are already very good, you might not solve anything and still score 100 percentile. So it is not compulsory, but considering that we want to practice around 10 to 15 types of topics majorly, and then we want to practice at least 3 different difficulty level in each topic, and we want to do at least 5 to 6 sets in, or 8 sets at each difficulty level. That's 24 sets per topic minimum. And then if you are practicing 15 topics, that's 360 sets. And if you are covering more extensively, then you would probably cover slightly lesser important topics also. And then that makes it 500 sets. So it is not like, you have to do 500 sets or 1000 sets, something like that. But yeah, I mean, if you are preparing properly, you would want to practice easy sets, moderate sets, difficult sets. You would want to practice all the important topics. You would need to do around 400, 500 sets, definitely. But that is in the entire preparation. That's not just in the last 1 month. Okay. Fagun, if you are not making a lot of mistakes and every time you cross check and you see that, nine times out of 10, you are correct, then just for that one time, I think that it's not a good idea cross checking so much, because ultimately in that time, you might be able to attempt more questions. So you have to see that every time you cross check, do you find errors in your solutions? If that is the case, then probably it's a good idea to keep cross checking. But if that is not the case, then it's not a great idea. You need to avoid that and trust your calculations. Are practice sets available on IMS portal same level as that of PYQs and the mocks? If you're talking about, let's say the sectional test, the first few sectional tests are easy. The next few are moderate and the last 3 or 4 are difficult. That is the order of the sectional test. Okay. Any other questions, anyone? Anything that has not been covered related to strategy here? Anybody? DLR is the most important section. We all know that. So in terms of being highly unpredictable. So if there is something that we have not covered here, you can ask just now. Okay, so I can't really see any more questions. So we'll get to the last part of our discussion. List of must-solve CAT sets from the previous years. Now, I tell you how I've curated this list and what kind of sets I have included and not included. So first of all, I haven't. Firstly, if you have a lot of time and you can afford to, solve the previous year papers, CAT 17 to CAT 24, one must solve all the papers. This would be a total of 21 past CAT papers. And these you should write as full length mocks. Ideally, you should be writing these as full length mock. Beyond this, CAT 2003 to CAT 2008, which is known as the golden phase of CAT, one can at least solve the DILR section. Okay. If I look at it, it comes to around 183 sets if we are doing all of this, CAT 2003 to CAT 24. If we are doing all the DILR sections, that comes to around 183 sets. If we have around 36, 37 days, if you divide, it's just about 5 sets a day. So in case somebody has not done anything till now, my suggestion would be you just do these 183 sets and probably you'll be prepared at least to clear the cutoff and all. If you have already done some of these, try to target the remaining. The more you can do, the better it would be. This list is not for people who have the time. If you have the time, do everything. Again, I'm repeating, if you have the time, do everything. If you do not have time, you have very less time or very limited time, then I have curated a list of sets from CAT 2008 3 to CAT 2020. I have deliberately not included anything from the last 4 years because as a mentor, I would definitely want you to write those as full length mocks. So if you do not have the time, you can't write 21 papers, you can't write 28 papers, at least write CAT 21 to 24, these 12. And because I want you to write these as full length mocks, I haven't really included any sets from this. I have also not included sets whose USP was calculation. So there were earlier when there was no calculator, there used to be sets which were very, very calculation intensive and hence very time taking. Those sets I have not included because now we don't really get those kind of sets much. That is one thing. Second thing is that we have a calculator. So even if we do, it is not as challenging as it was in the original test. I have also, this is also not the list of the most difficult sets. If somebody is thinking that, okay, we are going to get the 10 most difficult sets or 15 most difficult sets, it's not like that. I have just tried to make sure that you are practicing every kind of set. So you know that, okay, they have asked a radar chart in the past. This is what we need to do. They've asked a Venn diagram in the past. This is what we need to do. The important or the popular caselets that have been asked in CAT. So this is a compilation of those kind of sets. If you do this, you are going to get more than a fair idea of what kind of sets are asked in CAT. Okay, but this is not the most difficult 25 sets. And as I said, that some sets on purpose I have left out. So if you go through this list, it's going to give you a fair idea that, okay, these are the various variations that they have asked in CAT. Okay, so let's have a look at these sets. So these are from CAT 2003. As I said, CAT 2003, you can take a screenshot. I have compiled a list of 25 sets. Okay. So CAT 2017 to, or in fact, 2003 to 2020, if we just leave aside 21, 22, 23, and 24, then probably we are still looking at around, let's say, how much? 12, 12, 15 and 15, around 115 sets we are still looking at. So out of 115 sets, I have selected around 25 sets, almost 20%. So these are the sets that you can do. You can see a tournament set here. You can see an average base set here. You can see a Venn diagram set here. You can see a networking set over here. So basically it gives you an idea about what are the different logic they have been testing in CAT. So this is the first slide. And then these are the remaining sets. These are the remaining sets. If you practice all of these, you would have a fair idea of, what are the different kind of logic that they have been testing. Okay. So my suggestion would be that in case you have not really been doing the PYQs and you don't have the time to solve them as full length mock, please take a screenshot of these, do these 25 sets first and make sure that you have, you know the logic behind each of these and you know this particular question type, how to do. If you have the time, my suggestion would be that if you can't really solve everything, if you can solve everything, it's just 183 sets. So just about 5 sets every day. If you can't solve everything, do 17 to 24. If you can do as full length, do as full length mocks. 3 to 8, you can just do the selected sets I've given you here. If you can't do that also, then 3 to 20, all the selected sets I've given you here. 21 to 24 is the bare minimum that you should be writing as a full length mock. Fine. So this was the last part of our discussion today. If anybody has any more questions, you can ask me, guys. Any other questions, anyone? Yeah, any other questions, anybody? Is there any last minute revision booklet? No, there is no booklet. You don't even need one. You have taken some notes. That is what you can revise. You haven't taken any notes. Whatever sets you marked as important, solve those sets again. That's the only revision you need to do. Beyond that, nothing is required. Okay, I can't really see any more new questions. I hope all your queries have been answered. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I have answered your question that there is no revision booklet. Okay. Thank you, everyone. And if you have any further questions in the chat for this video, you can leave your questions and we'll answer those over there. So this is the most important thing. Keep learning. Best of luck, everyone. CAT's not far away. I hope all of you are able to clear the cutoff in CAT, in DILR and get a great score in DILR. In case you have any follow-up questions, you can leave them in the video on the YouTube channel. What is the question you are asking here? No, I can't really understand your question because you're just putting one word in every this thing. No, but what are you asking? Are you asking the expected number of questions? Are you asking the expected cutoff? You've just written minimum expected, but minimum expected what? Number of questions, cutoff, difficulty level. What are you asking? Consistently solving 2 to 3 sets. How to expand? You need to do, if you're talking about the mocks, you're consistently solving 3 sets, then you definitely need to try and target 4 now or 3.5 now. If you're talking about the daily practice, you are doing 3 sets, then that is definitely less, and you need to target at least 5 to 6 sets. How many questions are expected? Not less than 20 for sure. I don't think so. They are going to ask you less than 20 questions. Maybe 20 to 22, not more than 22, because 24 they gave in CAT 20, and there was a lot of hue and cry after that. So not more than 22, but not less than 20 either. No, I don't really expect the DLR section to be as easy as CAT 24, but that is my opinion just now. I can't guarantee you that. But DLR in CAT 24 was probably the easiest we have seen in the longest time. So I don't really think so that they are going to stick to the same difficulty level. I'm sure that if it is not a difficult DLR, still it's going to be moderate difficulty level. So it's not going to be as easy as the previous years. Any other advice for the last day? Yeah, one very important advice. I think I didn't mention this earlier. If you are in slot 2 or slot 3, don't take a lot of feedback from the previous slots. It always adds to nervousness and makes you, less confident or overconfident. Either of the two is not good. Either of the two is not good. A lot of people, including toppers and mentors and all, could not perform as well as they could have in CAT 24 because they got this word that, the DLR section is very easy. So they were trying to attempt or answer all the sets, and hence they made a mess of the section. So it is always a good idea, whether you are a good student, an average student, below average student. Yes, we should know the paper structure. So, just going through the institute wherever you are enrolled, they would come up with an analysis that, okay, this is the change we have seen in the first slot. This year they are not asking a graph, or this year they are asking 2 more questions in DLR. So if you just know that paper pattern, that is, I think, more than enough. Whether a particular arrangement set was very difficult, or if suppose like CAT 23, the first analysis that came out, they said that, okay, they are asking a lot of statistics in DLR. Now you are CAT slot 1 is already done. So if you're slot 2, you're already on your way to the center. If you're slot 3, you might have an hour more or an hour and a half more before you leave home. In that hour, do you think that you should pick up class 9, 10 books or your institute material and go through statistics basics to understand what is mean, median, mode, and based on whatever half an hour you spent on that, you will be able to crack the question? You could be, maybe it's an easy question, but is that the best thing to do? You would not be satisfied with the amount of time you've devoted on that topic, and probably you start feeling that I haven't done this, I wouldn't be able to crack the section. So it is not a great idea to get too much feedback on the previous slots. You are going to write your slot, not the previous slot, not the next slot. Okay. So yes, know what is the change in paper pattern, if any, and be mentally prepared for that. Even for that, you can't do anything. If they were asking 20 questions in DLR in 23 and 22 in 24, what can we do about that? Can we do anything about that? If they're asking 22, we have to do 22. So yes, we can be mentally prepared for that. So it doesn't come as a surprise to us. Beyond that, if they're not asking me parajumbles, they're not asking parajumbles. I can't, just let it affect my mental state for the paper that I have devoted so much time to parajumbles. That was my strong topic. They are not asking this. What will I do in the VR section? Whatever is there, you have to do that only, just like every other test taker. So the thing is that on the last day, at the last minute, you can't do anything. Then why to take so much feedback? So just know if there's any change in the paper pattern, that should be more than enough. If you don't take that also, that is also fine. Okay, that was the last thing. I think that about the last day somebody asked. So yeah, I've already told you that what if I'm not able to solve a single set in SimCAT, see that basic difficulty level you are able to solve or not. Firstly, you are able to solve the class exercise on your own or not. If yes, how much time do you take per set? Practice exercise, how much time do you take per set? So go in ascending order of difficulty, class exercise, then practice exercise, then benchmarking test, then PYQs, then the mocks. So up to a certain difficulty level, if I'm able to solve correctly, if I'm able to do, let's say, well in the PYQs, then not doing as well in the SimCats, it's okay. But if I'm not doing well at the PYQ level also, at the practice exercise also, class exercise also, then, expecting to do well in the SimCats is a bit over expectation. So you first need to work on your fundamentals. You need to select some topics that, okay, these are the 4 or 5 chapters where I'll first put my time and make sure that I'm able to do at least up to difficulty level B from here. Okay. Then only you'll be able to solve at least 1 or 2 sets. Is slot 3 more difficult than the other slots? All of this is myth. I am K is preparing the paper. This section will be more difficult. IML is preparing. This is going to be easy. They focus more on verbal. They focus more on QA, DILR. These are all high building activities just to garner views on the channel and all. There is no truth to any of these. There's no correlation also. Okay, so if you just pick up the papers of the past years and just see what they are saying, you would see that there's no truth in that. Okay. Fine, guys. Thank you very much, all of you. In case there are any questions that remain unanswered, please, as I said, leave a message below this video on the YouTube and we'll answer those questions. If you're an IMS student, obviously you can reach out on the Telegram group also. Thank you, everyone. I hope this session added some value and gave you some clarity about how to go about in the remaining 1.5 months, less than 1.5 months, in fact. Best of luck, everyone.